Good morning, my fellow Africans and the world at large. This is Emmanuel Kwejo Mensah once again, coming into your homes and your minds with a message of empowerment and enlightenment, all the way from Ontario, Canada. Today is the 14th of September in the year 2022, and the Bible says, "This is the day the Lord has made. We should rejoice and be glad in it." And for that matter, I take this opportunity to invite the whole world, any man or woman listening to me or hearing my voice, to join me to give thanks to God for the day that He has granted unto us and life in general. Life is beautiful. Life is wonderful. Life is glorious. Life is God Himself flowing through all things, including mankind. Today, I am going to speak to you on the topic, every good thing or experience is governed and sustained by principles, but not methods. I repeat, every good thing or experience is governed and sustained by principles, but not methods. The universe we find ourselves in is governed by laws and principles. And therefore, as part of the universe, it is our responsibility to discover the principles and laws and obey them. And just as when you drop a fish into a river, the fish doesn't do anything against the water, but it adapts to the water and begins to swim. It is the same thing that we are immersed in the universe. We are in the universe. And therefore, it is our responsibility to swim along the current of the flow of universe, such that we will enjoy our experiences just as the fish that has been dropped into the river enjoys its living in the water, because it knows and understands what it ought to be done to be safe and also to move from one point to the other. And so we are all in the universe, and it is our responsibility to understand the life principles and all the things that surrounds us. And as soon as we begin to follow these principles, we are safe. But unfortunately, men and women always look for shortcuts. And therefore, what we do is we develop methods that we think we can use to circumvent these principles. And therefore, we use methods from one end to the other. And then what we do is we create confusion. We create a lot of difficulties in our lives. But a principle comes before method. Methods are supposed to be used in alignment with principles. And when it is done, you arrive the right, or you attain the right results. And so, our life is to be, everything in our life here, or the essence of our existence on earth here, is to discover. And if we go back to the life of every man or woman on earth here, though we will not recollect, or we will not remember when we were babies, when we were children, how we behave, but we can look at how our own children are behaving, then we can say, oh, this is how all of us used to be. This is how all of us behave. And one typical example is a child and fire, or a child and the idea of falling to hurt yourself. Regardless of how parents will try to educate their children about the dangers of fire, you realize that as you grow, as the child grows, the child finds a way to test whatever the parents have told him or her. And it is upon getting the pain when the child puts his or her hand in fire and it gets burnt, then the child begins to know that, oh, this thing is something that is not friendly, so I must walk away from it. In the same way, when a child is climbing a table, the child is climbing a chair, the mom and dad will be saying, be careful, don't do that. And the child will go on, sometimes ignore the guidance of the parents, and then the child climbs the table, falls down, and then when he or she gets the pain, then he or she begins to learn that, no, next time I must not do this. And so this is how our life is. We are every day being given guidance by the universe And the way this guidance comes is through pain, through difficulties, for us to begin to discover the principles that when we follow, we will get freedom from all that we are going through. And so, if you look at our lives, we are not supposed to use methods, but we are supposed to discover principles. And then, when we discover the principle, how things are organized, the arrangement of things, then that our methods will be relevant. Any man or woman that preoccupied him or herself with methods, looking for shortcuts, looking for how to cut corners to get things done in a twinkle of an eye, will never have freedom. That person will continue to worsen his or her case. You may get a simple relief. You may use the method to get a certain answer, but in the near future or in the long future, you will find yourself in a bigger situation that you are actually running away from. And so we are supposed to learn. We are supposed to learn the essence of our living on earth here, or being in part of the universe, is learning. We have to take lessons and move on. And so today I'm going to invoke the words of my mentor, Ralph Waldo Emerson, on this topic. And according to Emerson, the man who grasps principles can successfully select his own methods. The man who tries methods, ignoring principles, is sure to have trouble or troubles. I repeat, the man who grasps principles can successfully select his own methods. The man who tries methods, ignoring principles, is sure to have trouble. And then I will invoke the words of another Emerson, but this time it's not Ralph Waldo Emerson. It is Harrington Emerson. As a matter of fact, Harrington Emerson is also an American. He's an American efficiency engineer and business theorist. He was the founder of the management consultancy firm Emerson Institute in New York. And according to Harrington Emerson, as to methods, there may be a million and then some, but principles are few. The man who grasps principles can successfully select his own methods. The man who tries methods, ignoring principles, is sure to have troubles. So he actually invoked the words of Emerson in this statement. And so these two statements, or these quotations, two quotations, are referring to one thing, and that is the importance of discovering and understanding the principles of life. And then when we understand the principles of life, we'll be able to develop methods that will help us to work along these principles and get the right thing. And so everything in the universe, everything in the human's life, everything that we see, everything that we experience is governed by principles. And so in our lives, all of us, when we were in school, in science, we learned that water takes the shape of a container. So when you take any amount of water and you put it in a bucket, the water will take the shape of the bucket. If you take the same amount of water and you put it in a barrel, the water will take the shape of the barrel. If you take the same amount of water and you put it in a tube, the water will take the shape of the tube. So you see that it's a principle. You cannot change this principle. The only thing you can do is to adapt to it, and then you will work with it and you get the right result. So any man or woman that goes about thinking of getting a method that he can use to make water take the shape of a bucket when it is poured in a barrel is destined to fail, because that person is not abreast with the truth of life. And then we also have another thing that we do every day in our lives. We boil water, and it's a principle. There is a principle governing the boiling of water. That the principle states that water must be heated to a certain temperature before it begins to boil. So if you are the one that only believes in methods, and therefore as soon as you put your water on the water and the fire, you say, oh, I am going to give it only 2 minutes because I'm in a hurry. And you, with your belief that once you put the water on fire, it must boil automatically, you will take your water back and it will not boil. because you are ignorant about the principle that governs the boiling of water. The water must be heated to a certain temperature. And therefore, when you have this understanding, anytime you're going to boil water, you have patience. And then you look for the right amount of fire or heat that will heat the water and make it boil faster. And so you see that everything that we do, there are principles behind it, and we develop our methods. But when you develop a method without understanding the principle, then you are bound to fail. Because there is nothing that can go against a principle, nothing that can change principle. Principles don't change. If the principles of the universe or the principles in the universe or in the laws of the universe are to change, then one day men and women will wake up and realize that they are no more walking on their legs, but they are walking on their heads, using their heads, because the world has been turned upside down. Or we'll wake up and see ourselves floating just like those who goes into outer space, because the law of gravity has failed us. Or we'll wake up to see that men and women are no longer talking, but we are all like, I don't know, but something is happening, you see. But the fact is that every principle that governs us from day one is still the same. The trees are still standing. They are not standing on their branches, but on the roots. The earth is still the same as it is. And so it is our responsibility to discover these laws and principles and go by that. And so the pain, the suffering, and all the things that we are seeing in our world here is as a result of our ignorance about principles. Your life is governed by principles. And therefore, once you know the principle and you obey the principle, you are free. So freedom, as we talk of freedom, freedom can never be given to men and women. Freedom of any kind. Even if you believe that some people are keeping you in bondage, those people cannot give you freedom. Because even if they free you today, tomorrow they can follow you and recapture you. But the freedom is about knowing the principles of life. And so the sooner as you adapt to the principles of life, those men and women that seems to be those capturing you and tormenting you will fade away, because they are your own creations. This is a truth of life. So we are supposed to look for principles but not methods. And one of the things that we do in our lives is looking at our circumstances, and then we begin to attribute the circumstances to other things. We begin to attribute our difficulties to other people, that they are the cause. But that is not the truth. A fish in the water will not come out if it is ignorance and find itself in the mouth of a shark. Will not come out, or will not say that it is a human being that put it in the water, and therefore the human being is the responsible. No, it is its own effort, or it is its own fault that it finds itself at a place. But the fact is, whatever happens, the principles must hold. If you find yourself in difficulties, if you find yourself in any situation, come back to your senses and be awakened to the truth that the human being is governed by principles. And with human beings with the power of thought, the universal laws and principles respond to our thoughts. And therefore, whatever we think, whatever we emotionalize, by the operations of the laws of the universe and the principles, we will get the results. And then when we know that, then we begin to develop methods to wake ourselves out of these problems. So, if you look at human beings, our life is supposed to be fun. Our life is supposed to be wonderful. But we're having bitter and sour life because we lack the understanding of these principles. And how do we find out these principles? We discover it. Everything in the human's life was discovered. The law of gravity was discovered by someone by using his mind or her mind. The law of buoyancy, everything that we know in natural science were discovered by people. But these principles existed long before they were born. And so it is in our lives. Today, the things that you are going through, whatever situation that you are going through, there is something that you need to discover out of that situation and then begin to walk in that direction. And the way to do that is begin to analyze your life, begin to analyze your way of thinking, begin to analyze your way of doing things, and then begin to do things in the opposite direction from what you have been doing all these years. Then that you discover it's a try and error method. You will try this one, it will not work. You try this one, it won't work. One day you will discover the other one. And that is when you will shout, you come out and shout like Archimedes that, Eureka, Eureka, I have found it. But unfortunately, men and women, we are afraid. We do not want to experiment. We do not want to, look or go in search for the universal laws and principles. Therefore, we are looking for methods. And so when a man or woman is in need of money, he thinks that he can use a method that is going to steal. Therefore, he goes to steal, and finally, he finds him or herself in the hands of law enforcement bodies. When a man or woman is appointed as a minister or as a leader or in any capacity, be it organization or business or in government or any other area of our life, the person wants to amass wealth within a twinkle of an eye, and therefore he goes on to do what? To corrupt himself and begin to amass wealth through stealing. Such a person lacks principle. Such a person is not abreast with the laws of or the principles governing wealth or prosperity. Such people will amass all these things, but their disgrace, the disgrace that follows them is so great that their names will never be remembered. Or even if they are remembered, it is about their disgrace. There is a principle for everything. If you want to be rich, there is a principle governing richness, and that is about your mind. It is in your mind. It is your thoughts. Your thoughts. What you daily brood upon, what you daily emotionalize, what you feel within yourself about your life or about money and you is what is going to happen. And if these things are embedded in your subconscious mind from your family line, then you have to do everything that you can to uproot them out of your system. So to be rich, to be successful, to be great, or to do anything in life, any good thing, or to do any great thing in life, it's not about method, it's about principle. And as soon as you discover the principle and you go by the principle, you automatically get the right results. As we all know, in mathematics, 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. Regardless of where you are looking at this equation, whether you are in Afghanistan, or you are in Azerbaijan, or you are in Zimbabwe, or you are in Morocco, or you are in any part of the world, or even in outer space, the principle remains that 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. It doesn't change. And so our life is the same. When we put things together in line with the laws of the universe, the principles governing our life, we will get a favorite result. It is our inability to look for the principles that governs us and all things around that is creating pain and suffering in our lives. So let us wake up. This is the time that we have to wake up. And as I have always been doing, I've been saying, my purpose is to educate my fellow Africans about the laws of the universe and how we can rise up to make our life a beautiful and a successful one. Principles never change. Principles will never fail, but our methods will fail us. Whatever thing that you are doing in your life that you are getting only the bad results, whatever thing that we have been doing collectively that we are getting the bad result is an indication that we are using only methods but not principles. But principles are more important than methods. Principles are more important than methods. You can have the method of doing this and that, but if you don't understand the logic behind it, the principle behind it, you will never understand it. You can chew and pull, but as soon as you forget whatever you have chewed and pulled, you can't remember it. You fail. But when you understand the logic, when you understand the principle behind it, even when you are asleep and if someone comes to wake you up, you will take that thing and do it easily. And so that is how our life is. Let us rise up. Let us begin to look for the laws that governs us. Every human being is born rich naturally. Every human being is born healthy naturally by our nature, by the principle that governs us. There is a principle for health. There is a principle for riches. There's a principle for everything that we see. And as we know in life, the absence of one thing, the absence of a good thing leads to the presence of the bad one. So when you take light and darkness, there is nothing like darkness. We don't have darkness in existence. It is the absence of light that creates darkness. So when you bring a light in any darkness, the darkness fades away. You ask yourself, what is the darkness? Has it run away to another part or whatever? No, the darkness doesn't actually exist. It is only when you take the light away that darkness comes. And so it is in your life. You are naturally born rich. There is a principle governing your riches. You are naturally born healthy. There is a principle governing your health. And therefore, if you are seeing sicknesses, if you are seeing poverty, that means you have gone against the principle of health or riches. And as the absence of one thing leads to the other, the health has to go, and for the sicknesses have to come in your life. In the same way, the riches have to go, and the poverty has to come in your life because you have cut it out. And so, if you look at our lives, the up and down, everything that we are doing is not what we're supposed to be doing. We are supposed to busy our mind in looking for the laws of the principles, such that wherever you find yourself, even if you are in an organization and you are the lowest person in that organization and you are working according to the laws of riches, you know the principles of riches and you do your work in the exact way as it's supposed to be, you will be richer than the managing director. Opportunities and other things will open up for you that you will be crowned and you'll be richer than any other person in that organization. That is a fact. But when you go into the organization and you begin to use methods, you begin to look for how to cut corners, do this and that, and then for you go on with a certain mindset that you don't care about all that governs yourself and all the wealth and riches, then you're going to get poverty. And that is why we see men and women working so hard, but it is only poverty that we are bringing into our lives. The men and women that work so hard in this world are the poorest people. Why? And also, the men and women that work little are the richest people. Why? Because the other group of people, the poor people, don't understand the principles governing riches. And the rich people understand the principle governing riches, and therefore they go against it, and the poor people go against the principle of riches, whereas the rich people goes in alignment with the law of the principles of riches. And since the poor people are actually cutting out the principle that bring up riches, in the absence of the riches, poverty must reign. And so it is with the rich people. So everything that we have, everything that we do in our life is governed by principle. And when we know and understand and obey the principle, the universe will naturally bring all these things into our existence. And as I've already stated, if it is hard work, that it has been sold to us, that leads to riches, then by now, majority of us should be rich people. If it is hard work, that leads to riches. By now, Africa should have been one of the richest continents because Africans, we are toiling the most. We are doing everything by our strength. We are doing everything by our power, physical power. But we are poor. Why? Because we lack the understanding of the principles governing riches. Everything is in your mind. Everything that you are looking for is in your mind. Even if you want to create a machine, if you want to invent anything, it's in your mind. And once you know the principle and you begin to suggest it to the subconscious mind, and the universal laws and principles in the universe will coincide, will work, will come together to bring that thing into existence. And that is why Emerson also says that once a man makes a decision, the universe conspires to bring that thing that decision into reality. And so your life is not a haphazard thing. Your life is not just to live by methods. Methods are the things that we create for ourselves. Oh, I want this to happen, so I am going to save, I am going to do that. You see, if you are someone who believes in savings, that your wealth, your success, your riches are in your savings, then you are using methods, you will never be rich. As a matter of fact, when people save, they save and save and save, and therefore they don't even want to take the money that they have saved to enrich themselves. And therefore they have the money in the bank, but they are living a poor life. Such people are poor. They don't have what we call rich, or they don't have what we call prosperity consciousness. Prosperity consciousness. And so to be rich and to be poor is about consciousness. To be healthy and to be sick is all about consciousness. If you are conscious of poverty, then you will be poor. The people who are conscious of poverty are those who are saving, such that even if there is no money at home, the person doesn't want to go and touch his or her savings. In that case, you are living poverty conscious, and therefore everything in your life will be poor. Even though you may have the money in the bank, one day something will happen and everything will go away, or you will die and leave the money behind. But you have lived a wretched and poor life. That is the truth. You have starved your own family members to death. That is the truth. So, riches is governed by principle. Just as everything 2 plus 2, our mathematical equations are governed by principles. Healthy or health is governed by principle in the same way. But the only way we can bring these things into our experience is to know the principles and go by it. And when we talk about health, those of us, or many men and women that believe in scientific or medicine, we all come to realization that the more we become sophisticated in medicine, the more we come on with sophisticated medication and all those things, the more we have more difficult diseases and other things. And as a matter of fact, if we come to the advanced world, people are not healthy. Only a few people are living a healthy life. The rest are only being patched up by medicine. The majority of people here are patched up by medicine. Today he is in the hospital, they are patching him or her up. Tomorrow the person is in the hospital, they are patching him or her up. So within a year, the person has undergone through so many medical procedures and that. The person is no longer strong. They are only patching the person. But there is a principle for health, such that when you understand it and you adapt to that principle, live in your mind and believe and have the faith that you are a principle, your life is governed by a principle. There is a life principle in you, and that principle is the source of your life, is the source of your wealth, is the source of your everything. All the time, you will be healthy. All people will fall sick and you'll be standing. And that is why the Bible says that 1,000 will fall on one side of your hand and 10,000 on the other hand. That is a man or woman who understands principle. So our lives are governed by principles, by not laws. And as I have already stated, if we are to bring this into our lives as Africans, you will see that we lack principles. Africans will lack principles. And all the things that happens in our lives, it is time that we come back to trace it to ourselves. To trace it to ourselves. There is no way that a child that is ignorant about fire will save him or herself. But the moment the child learns about the intensity or what a fire does, the child doesn't go back to it again. We have been doing something in our life for far too long. We have been living a certain life, and we have protected all our things and that. But it is the same life that we are repeating. This is the time that for us to wake up and begin to look for other things. For us to have an open mind and experiment. Life is experiment. Life is experiment. As a matter of fact, people who have moved the world to where we are now are the people who are playful, people who dream things that men and women will laugh at. They are the dreamers. They are the people that have brought the world to this place. They are the saviors of the world. And therefore, you must have an open mind. Have an open mind and begin to try. When you try something today, tomorrow, and it doesn't work, begin to look for another things. Think ways of how to do things. When ideas, when principles are being sold to you, have an open mind and try it. The most close-minded people in this world are Africans. Whenever you introduce this to this person, the person goes on to shout, "Oh, for me, I am for Jesus." No, this is not what our forefathers has done for all these years, and why do we have to go against it? Yeah, these are people who are close-minded people. They will not go anywhere because they are going against the principles of their own laws and beings. And as I've already said, you are brought here to live a fruitful and a beautiful life. You are on this earth here to enjoy life. And therefore, if life is not enjoyable, if whatever you are living is the opposite of that, then it means you are not abreast or you are ignorant about the principles that governs your own existence. And this is the time that we have to look for it. This is the time that you have to look for it. There is a principle governing all good things, but there are no principle governing all the bad things, because the bad ones comes into existence as a result of the non-existence of the reality. The bad ones are illusions. So poverty is an illusion. Sicknesses are illusions. All the bad things that we see in our life, the pain and suffering, are illusions, and they are in existence because we have kicked out the reality. The reality is that the human being source of everything, the human being source of livelihood, your money, your health, everything is within yourself. And there is a principle, there is a life principle, there is a principle of everything within you, that when you begin to think and act along these principles, you will naturally be successful. And that is why men and women, a few men and women, we see them and we say, "Oh, these people are fortunate." Because you see that they start life with all other people, but within a few months or a few years, they are going up. Meanwhile, they are doing the same thing with all other people. Why? These people think and do things in a certain way that all other people are not ready to do. People who are so preoccupied with the methods and the things that has been given to us by society, they are those who are putting themselves in bondage. And as I've already started, one of the greatest things that causes poverty in the lives of men and women is the idea of saving. The idea of savings. People save and they live poor life. People save and they live poor life. When I was in Ghana, I grew up part of my life in the northern part of Ghana, actually a school in Tamale. And so I know all those places. And so you go to some places and they say, "This man is rich. This Alaji is rich." But as a matter of fact, if you look at the Alaji or whatever, the man that they are talking of as the richest person, the man, he lives in a thatched house. The person has nothing to show that he's rich, apart from maybe a car. Every life of the person and the family are poor. It shows poverty. So these people are living a life that is more of a poverty consciousness. But people who surround them with beauty, even when they do not have anything, they believe and I walk in the direction, walk in the mindset that it is their divine right to be rich. It is their divine right to be successful. And therefore, even in the absence of money, they polish themselves. They present themselves in a way that shows that they are. Then they will become. Everything that we have in life here is a psychology. It's a mental state. And that is what we call your consciousness. This principle is what defines every human being's life. Your consciousness. Life is a state of consciousness. Believe it or not. So what is in your consciousness? My fellow African, what is in your consciousness? What are you thinking? Are you thinking that you have been shortchanged? Are you believing that we have been duped? Are you thinking that some people are those who have put us in our situation? If you are thinking that way, then that is what you are conscious of. And all of us put together, we are creating that life of ourselves. But if we begin to think that there is a principle, everything, the principle in our life gives us only the right thing. And therefore, whatever we are seeing is a discord. And therefore, we are going to look for the principle and walk by the principle. And that is by thinking in the direction at which we are want to go, thinking about only the things that we want to be, then we are living by the principles, and we will go by it, and we will discover it. That is to think in one direction, and that is what Jesus Christ gave in the book of Matthew chapter 5 verse 37, that let what you say be simple, yes or no. Anything more than this comes from evil. Let what you say be simple, yes or no. When Jesus Christ said, let what you say yes and no, he's not talking about necessarily about what we say to people yes or no. Yeah, those ones are good. Yeah, we have to say that. But Jesus Christ was talking about some deep-rooted mindset in our life, in existence. What is your consciousness? You have one thing in your mind. You want to be rich. Therefore, whatever you are doing, everything in your mind must be in exact way as you want it to happen in your life. And that is your yes. So you say yes to it, and you say no to whatever thing that comes to you in your life. Anything that comes to you is a distraction. So you focus your attention on that. That is a principled man. That is a person that has principles in his life. He says, this is what I'm going, this is what I want, this is where I'm going, regardless of the difficulties, regardless of the challenges, regardless of the pain involved in the process. My yes is my yes. Therefore, I go. And my no is to all other things. So the person goes. And then when you do that, then you're a principled man, going by the law, going by the truth that Jesus gave, that let what you say be simply yes or no. Let what you say be simply yes and no. It's not necessary, but what we say with our mouth. But what we emotionally, and what we have in our conscience, and what we think about our ideas, what we think about our dreams. Whenever you have a particular thing that you are working on, and a problem comes, a challenge surfaces, what do you say? Do you leave it or you go ahead? If you leave it, then you are not the person that says yes. And then you are not the person that says no. You must say yes to the dream and say no to whatever thing that is coming. I refuse to accept this. I refuse to accept this. But what I want to achieve is what I'm going on. Then you go on to achieve. That is the principle that we need to. Africans, we don't have a focus. We don't have a focus. We try this one today. When something comes up, we leave what we are doing, then we go on to the other one. That is what we've been doing all the time. That is what we've been doing because we do not understand the principles of life. Everything is governed by principles, by those methods. People will sell methods to us. People will sell all these methods to us, but they will not take us out of our difficulties. And if I'm to use my home country once again, Ghana has gone to IMF, and as far as the histories are concerned, Ghana has been to IMF for 17 times or so. Yeah, this IMF, World Bank, and all these things, they are selling methods to Africans. These methods will not take us out of poverty. These methods will not take us out of all that we are going through. But when we begin to look at things and say, my yes, our yes is our yes, our no is our no, we have a focus. This is what we have created. We have drafted for ourselves. This is what we want to take ourselves to. Therefore, we are going to use our mind. We are going to stay by it and go by it and go by. We're going to say no to all other things and yes to that particular thing and go in that direction. Then that we will achieve. Then we say our yes is our yes. Our no is our no. But we don't have that because we lack principle. A man with a principle is like a chaff on the sea that is being tossed away by the waves. But the man with principle is like a ship on the sea with a full captain that knows where he's going. Therefore, he controls the ship in times of difficulty, in times of storm, and make sure that they go in that direction. And this is the time that we have to rise up, my fellow Africans. Let us be principled. Let us put principles before everything. Let us put principle before everything. And as I've already stated, as for Ghana, my beloved country, and all other countries in Africa, everything that we are doing is an indication of a people who lack principle, people who cannot will themselves to go through some pain at a certain stage and then emerge on the other side free. Therefore, we are always going about jumping from one thing to the other, repeating the same thing. Today, we are no more going for this. Tomorrow, we are going for that. We've sang Africa beyond AIDS, Africa beyond that. and now we've already gone back to that in Ghana and other parts of the world. Now, the world is a place of law. The world is a place of principle. It is not about hard work. It is not about we going about doing methods, doing this and that and that. But it is about obeying the laws and the principles that governs the universe, that governs everything. There is no way that you get yourself out of all these things by only following methods. If we understand the principle, we can select our own methods, as Emerson said, and we will get the results that meet our situation. If we understand principles, we will be able to select our own methods such that we will create the conditions that meet our situations. But we are looking for methods that have been created for some people based on a principle, and we think that those methods will solve our problem. It will not do that. It will not work. It doesn't work that way. So my brothers and my sisters, my fellow Africans, this is the time that we have to wake up and be conscious of the fact that every good thing in the world is governed by principles. And the absence of one thing leads to the presence of the other. Always, there is only one right thing. Always, there is only one good thing. There is only one thing called light. There is no substitute. But when we take the light out of our vicinity, then darkness will come into our existence. But the darkness doesn't exist. So long as you leave the light on in your vicinity, darkness will not come. In the same way, there is only riches. Every human being is born rich. Every human being is born powerful. Every human being is born healthy. But as soon as we go against the principle of all these things, we take them out of our way. And since they are no more in our life, the opposite, which is the illusion, must come into our life. And that is what we're going to experience. So the gloom and doom, the doom and gloom and all the things that the pain and suffering we are seeing in Africa is the creation of the African men and women, is the creation of the African people but through the lack of the understanding of universal laws and principles that governs us. Today, my job is to give you an overview. And my dream is that this will spare you, that you begin to think about this, you begin to work along these lines and begin to ask yourself questions. Begin to ask yourself questions, empowering questions, not disempowering questions, and ask God to open your mind, open your eyes for you to see. As the song says, open my mind, open my eyes, that I may see the glimpse of truth that you have for me, in stock for me. Let us seek understanding. Life is governed by principles, but not methods. Methods must be developed based on the principles you are working on. Methods must be developed based on the principle that you base your life on. And this is the time that we have to rise up. We have to create a developed Africa, a multiracial Africa. We have to go by principles. We look at the Europeans. Look at what they've done. They've created a community. They've created a multiracial community societies. That now you come to Europe and other, yes, you see all human beings everywhere living side by side. Yes, we have issues with the system. There are people here, but there is no perfect system. That is why evolving. But they have something that they are working towards. They are working and making it better. What is our system? There is a principle for everything. And the principle is that we have to begin to look for. There are principles in every human being. The principle of life, the principle of success, the principle of everything is in every human being, and also in all things. And these are the principles that keeps the universe in place, such that the way the universe is, the way our world is what our children, our children's children, our descendants will come and meet. We come and meet it the way it was in our forefathers day. In the same way, they will come and meet it in the way it is, because the sun will continue to rise in the east and set in the west. Men and women will continue to walk on their legs. Men and women will continue to do whatever we are doing as human beings in the exact way, because the universe, the laws and the principles of the universe never change. And so it is with the laws and principles that governs us as part of the universe. You are born rich. You are born powerful. You are born great, my fellow Africans. Rise up. Let us rise up and let us use our mental powers. Let us begin to work along the laws of the universe and create a nation, create a continent, nations that are well developed, that are enlightened, that are moving the world in the right direction, but not derailing the world's progress. We see the beauty and all the things that we see in the advanced world. And we want to think that it came as a result of magic. No, they understand the laws and obey them. And this is the time we have to work on it. This is the time we have to work on ourselves. And as the Bible says, go to the ant, you sluggard, learn his ways and be wise. We are seeing all these good things in the developed world. Why can't we bring ourselves and learn from them and adapt it and use it to build our life? But when we are interested in a quick one, which is methods by which we can take whatever they have created into our lives and use it to suit ourselves. No, it doesn't work that way. So the idea of reparation, the idea of this and that distribution of wealth and whatever, they are all falsehood. They are methods. They don't mirror any universal principle. The universal principle that is supreme is that you are made in the image and the likeness of God. You are born rich. You are created rich. Riches and power and everything are around you. You only have to discover the principles that governs you and all these things in our lives. And we will demonstrate, we will manifest exactly as they have manifested. And that is when we can say that, yes, we have created our life. We have recreated our life and we reshaped our life. We've remolded our life. And this is Africans who have liberated themselves from all their difficulties and challenges by the use of their own minds and their mental powers. That is when we can say that, yes, we have come to this world and we have been part of the greats. That is the fact. So let us rise up. Let us rise up. Let us rise up. Be awakened to the truth that everything in this world is governed by principles, by what matters. Do not preoccupy looking for methods, but preoccupy yourself for looking for the laws of the universe, the principles. The principles are everywhere. They are basic things in our life. Look for it and then begin to work along it. Anything that comes that makes you feel good and makes you have the beauty, the joy in your life is in alignment with your inner being. And that is what you have to go with. That is my message for you. Let us rise up, my fellow Africans. And now let us begin to walk and believe that everything in this world is governed by principles, but not these morals. And therefore, we will walk by principles. And the first thing we have to address is that coming to the realization and coming to the acceptance that life is a state of consciousness. So let us be careful about what we are daily conscious of. Let us busy our mind with whatever we want to be, whatever we want to create, and leave all other things, and it will come to pass that we will achieve it. That is the truth, and that is the matter of life. That is my message for you. Now, may the overshadowing presence of God that keeps the stars in the open from falling on us, that is an example of the principles. And the same overshadowing presence that keeps the planets in their orbit such that they do not clash with one another. That is also another example of universal principles. Lead, guide you, and direct you, give you an open mind, so that you will be awakened to the principles that govern your own self and all things around you, every one of us, such that we will create a beautiful and a wonderful life in our life. A life that is beautiful. A life that is heaven on earth, such that we will create a heaven on earth here on the soul and the continent of Africa, such that it will become an attraction to all men and women that will come and see the beauty and the glory of the sons and daughters of Africa. Once again, my name is Emmanuel Kwejo Mensah. I am a co-founder of the Eagle Mentality Group. And at Eagle Mentality Group, our drive and determination is the teaching and propagation of information about the power of the subconscious mind and universal laws and principles. It is our determination and our drive and our dream that we will raise a new group of Africans who begin to think things in alignment of the universal laws and principles. Africans that will begin to preoccupy themselves with the look for and the obeying of the universal laws and principles of their own being, such that we all collectively will create a prosperous and a wonderful life as God intended. For we are powerful and wonderful creatures, deliberate creators, that we are creating our life every day, a beautiful and a wonderful life, such that our continent will be a symbol of riches, not in raw materials, but in truth and in reality. Our symbol will be our continent will be a place, or a continent that all men and women from all parts of the world fly or come to enjoy our beauty and our glory, which is the glory of God. Just as birds of all kinds flies to the fruitful and the beauty and sweet trees to enjoy their fruits. That is my message for you. It is our determination to create a new and a diverse Africa, an Africa that is made up of all men and women, a multiracial but a unified Africa, and will be a symbol of unity, an example of diversity, which is God's glory to the whole world, such that will move humanity to another level of existence. Thank you, and God bless you.